This is a solution to just part of a question. So a student's asked to have a look at 7 part 2 in particular from this paper. So it's a hypothesis testing question, but part 2 doesn't actually involve the hypothesis test. So a particular product is made from human blood given by donors. The product is stored in bags. The production process is such that on average 5% of bags are faulty. Each bag is carefully tested before use. So jumping to part 2 of the question, a random sample of n bags is selected. The production manager wishes there to be a probability of 1/3 or less of finding any faulty bags in the sample. Find the maximum possible value of n, showing you're working clearly. Okay, so what we need to do is use the words of this question and turn them into an equation, or an inequality in this case, and solve that inequality to find the value of n. So we've got 1/3 or less, and this is the probability of finding any faulty bags in the sample. So first thing to do is to set up the distribution. So if x is the number of faulty bags, then x has a binomial distribution where n is n, we don't know what it is yet, and p is 0.05. We're looking for probability of any faulty bags. So x, the number of faulty bags, well, any faulty bags, that means greater than or equal to 1, is the number of bags that are faulty. And we need that to be 1/3 or less. So the probability that x is greater than or equal to 1 is 1 minus the probability that x equals 0. So if we do that, 1 minus the probability that x is equal to 0 needs to be less than or equal to 1/3. So the probability that x equals 0, we can use the binomial formula for that. So we've got NC0, which is 1, 0.05 to the power of 0, which is also 1, and then 0.95 to the power of n, and that's going to be less than or equal to 1/3. So 1 times 1 is 1, so really we've just got 1 minus 0.95 to the n equals 1/3. So if we subtract 1/3 from both sides, 1 minus 1/3 on the left is 2/3, and subtract, or rather add, 0.95 to the n to both sides. So we end up with 2/3 is less than or equal to 0.95 to the n. If we log both sides, and then on the right-hand side use the fact that log of 0.95 to the n is the same as n log of 0.95, then we just need to get n on its own. We'll divide by this log of 0.95. Now, log of 0.95 is actually a negative number. Log of a number between 0 and 1 is negative. So we're dividing by a negative, so this inequality is going to flip round to be an inequality in the opposite direction. So instead of n greater than or equal to this, we're going to have n is less than or equal to what we get here. So on the calculator, log of 2/3 divided by log of 0.95 gives us 7.90. Now n is less than or equal to that, and we were asked to find the maximum number of n. So n is an integer, it's the biggest integer, which is less than 7.9. So it's going to have to be 7. So our final answer for this part of the question is that the maximum value of n is 7.